I think anyone else who's seen it, who believes in human decency, to see this level of violence celebrated gleefully, so much so that the perpetrator himself posted it on social media. It's like a sucker punch to all of us who believe in civilized behavior and humane treatment of one another. And let me just say that the transgender community, especially women of color, are so often marginalized, assaulted, and even murdered. It is an epidemic that can be seen across the country. So the fact that we have 3 transgender women of color who were attacked so mercilessly in the early morning hours of Monday after Sunday evening with a crowd of onlookers as though it were some sort of spectator sport, when these women were in great distress and clearly becoming more injured as this attack carried through in those harrowing several minutes that we've seen on video. And let me just tell you, for the crowd that gathered and the perpetrators of this crime, you really did mess with the wrong people. And when Captain and I spoke a couple of mornings ago, we awakened to this incredible awareness within the transgender community, many of whom are my friends, who had already been very helpful with leads on who the suspects were because they got active on helping their sisters who had been victimized like this. So it's really important that we make arrests like this. And I just want to send a signal to anyone who was in that crowd cheering on and just watching this as a spectator and not leaning in and offering assistance and help. That is not behavior that is becoming of a resident of the City of Angels. And that is the kind of behavior that will not be tolerated. This community is active, this community is involved, this community has standards of behavior. And if you don't abide by civil behavior toward one another in Hollywood, especially communities that have been marginalized through the ages so much, like transgender women and the transgender community, then let me just tell you, you are not welcome here at all under any circumstance. So these arrests are made. It's a great day. And again, I thank the Los Angeles Police Department. But just know that this is not where it ends. We need to have a moment here where we utilize this tragic instance of violence and harassment, and we need to make sure that we elevate this so that people understand, as perhaps they haven't before because they haven't understood the significance of crimes against this community and how they've been perpetrated over the years, especially when it comes to transgender women of color. We need to make sure people understand that that's an issue in this community and that we can elevate it. So I want to say this to anyone who was in that crowd jeering or cheering them on, I would like for you to call me. Please call me. Call me at City Hall, call me at my field office, because I want to talk to you and I want to give you an opportunity to apologize for your behavior, because we need to show the rest of the world that there are consequences for looking the other way or for cheering on an act of violence when people are clearly in distress. It is inhumane, it is wrong, and it is unacceptable. And I know that the investigation continues with the LAPD, and there are some questions that people have. And I feel that Captain Lurie or Chief Eisenberg may answer those questions, because this investigation is not over. We are demanding justice. We will accept nothing less. And I have to give a shout out not just to the men and women who cracked the case and spent these countless hours to lead us to this level of success, but also Assistant Chief Beatrice Germala, who is the liaison for this community, who has for years headed the working group within the transgender community, who has great respect for this community, and the community has great respect for her. Assistant Chief Beatrice Germala, who I'd like to invite to say just a few quick words herself, because her presence is so appreciated in this very, very difficult time for this community. Chief Grimal, if you wouldn't mind saying a few words.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking the time for this important press conference. Justice for all should mean just that. There should be no exception to that rule. There should be no marginalization to that rule. But we can't arrive at justice unless we have the community in partnership with us. And not just lip service to say this is community policing, not just to say that we are working together, but where we see the manifestation of those partnerships in a day like today. I personally want to thank the Mayor's Transgender Advisory Council. I want to thank the LGBTQ LAPD working group who reached out to me, reached out to Hollywood area and Operations West Bureau to provide information, videos, and tips so that justice will eventually be served. To those in our community who may feel that they must operate, live, and work in the shadows, please know that this department must operate not only with its mind and its skill, but with its heart. And if our heart is not in policing, if our heart is not within the work, we cannot arrive at justice. And justice and trust that must exist within this community to mean something other than a nice tagline or something that we think will appease the community or onlookers. So I just want to say to the men and women of our LGBTQ community here in the nation and internationally, we stand with you in an unwavering commitment to justice. Please keep in mind as I conclude my remarks here that year to date in this world, 26 transgender women of color have lost their lives. And we know that number is an underestimate. Why? Because there is underreporting, there is hidden reporting throughout the world. We are well ahead of the number last year, which was 27 transgender women of color who suffered at the hands of another and lost their lives. So please keep them, those victims of violence within our community, in your thoughts and prayers, and speak out. Don't stand by. That's the other message here today. Pick up a phone. Everybody's got a cell phone in our community. Do not be an onlooker. Do not think that what you're seeing is something that is a form of diversion. Get involved. We need you. We respect you. We want you to be part of your police department, and I thank you. And I thank Councilmember O'Farrell. Thank you.
Chief. Okay, thank you. We'll take your questions in a moment. I did want to address one question that's been raised throughout, and that's the report that was out on social media that a black and white police vehicle drove by and ignored this incident happening. We've opened a personnel investigation to look into the details of that, but I can confirm for you that that police SUV was responding to an unrelated emergency that required response with lights and sirens, and we believe they were headed to that emergency, and that's why they went past the scene of this incident. And as our investigation moves forward, hopefully I'll have more details for you on that aspect of this story. And now we welcome your questions. That's a separate photo. Yes, each of those things. So we immediately began receiving tips through WeTip and phone calls to our station and to our detectives. And as the chief and the councilman mentioned, the LGBTQ community itself was active in providing us information through social media and in person as to who they believed these suspects were. So all three of those came into play.
How did they identify the suspects? Social media accounts?
Well, some of the suspects had, some of the suspects had social media accounts that helped us do that. There were some other ways as well. With one suspect still outstanding, I don't want to go into too much detail until we have everybody that we're looking for, but yes.
Did the victims and suspects say they know one another, or was this just a opportunity in relation to
Yeah, good question. So we're not sure about all three. There is some video of the primary suspect who you see here interacting with the victims prior to this incident, but we don't yet know what the details of that interaction were. Yeah, that's this suspect here. This is the primary suspect, correct. We do, and they'll be on the flyer that we distribute to you after the press conference. Yeah, we're not sure yet. Yeah, this is only an hour or so old that we have this, so we'll find out. I don't know yet. Yeah, the first suspect was arrested here in Hollywood. He was known through prior contacts to some of our Hollywood police officers, so as soon as they saw the video and the stills from the video, they knew who that person was. I'm sorry? Yeah, he's a homeless person in Hollywood who some of our outreach officers recognized. We don't know yet. We don't know yet if they know each other. Okay, thank you all very much.